What would happen if Kyler Murray gets taken first overall? Let's discuss. Alright, so this is the first of my 2 mock drafts. This is the one with Kyler Murray. The Cardinals decided to go with the electrifying yet undersized quarterback from Oklahoma and get rid of Josh Rosen. Now, what kind of ripple effect does this have in the draft? Well, let's just start with the number 2 overall pick with the 49ers. Now they have a chance to get Nick Bosa. Nick Bosa is probably the best player in this draft, definitely the best edge rusher in this draft. Now, this guy can play both inside and out, maybe even play some outside linebacker in certain situations. The Jets, they decided to go with the second best pass rusher in this draft, Josh Allen. They need some pass rushers. Why not go for this guy who really improved his stock after staying for his senior year? The Raiders, meanwhile, get to take Quentin Williams, defensive tackle from Alabama. People have been saying that he's the best player in this draft. So the Raiders get him at 4? They'd be happy with that. The Bucs, meanwhile, get the best linebacker in this draft, Devin White, where they need help at the inside linebacker position. Now, the Giants is where it gets a little tricky. Do they go with Eli Manning's successor, or could they possibly just take the best player overall? My thought on this, if they like a quarterback, just go take him. Don't wait till later, just take him now. It doesn't matter where you take these players. If you think they're going to be a star, take them wherever you want. So the Giants take a quarterback, and it's not Dwayne Haskins, it's Daniel Jones. The Jaguars, meanwhile, get help on that offensive line, get the best tackle in this draft, Jawan Taylor from Florida. At number 8, the Lions go with Montez Sweat to pair with Trey Flowers. Montez Sweat, this guy's fast, and he was very productive at Mississippi State. At number 9, the Bills go with T.J. Hockenson, tight end from Iowa. Gives Josh Allen another threat in the receiving corps and helps out at that tight end position. The Broncos, this is another team. Do they go with the quarterback even though they got Joe Flacco? We've seen this happen before. Remember when the Bears got Mike Glennon, but then they took Mitch Trubisky in the draft as well? I say the Broncos do the same thing. They take Drew Lock. Yeah, I got both Lock and Jones going before Haskins. I've heard he's been falling on some draft boards. The Bengals also get help on their offensive line, take Andre Dillard from Stanford. The Packers, meanwhile, take Ed Oliver. Now, he may be undersized, but he is very talented, and I think he would do very well in that Packers system. The Dolphins, meanwhile, this is another team that they could take a quarterback. They signed Ryan Fitzpatrick, and it looks like they may be looking towards 2020. However, I say they get Dwayne Haskins because they don't pass up a talent like this. The Falcons also get help with their offensive line, take Jonah Williams, the best guard in this draft. And yes, he's being drafted as a guard, not a tackle. Teams could take him at either. I see the Falcons go with the guard. The Redskins need help on the receiving corps, so why not take Antonio Brown's cousin, Marquise Brown? He may be undersized, but he is a threat every time he touches the ball. The Panthers take Rashawn Gary out of Michigan. This guy was the number 1 recruit coming out of high school, and the stats don't tell the whole story with him. He caused a lot of disruption during his time in Michigan. The Giants come back and take the best corner in this draft, Greedy Williams. I still love that name. Minnesota Vikings take Cody Ford, guard out of Oklahoma. This is another guy who can play both guard or tackle, but Minnesota takes him as a guard. Titans, meanwhile, get help on their linebacking core, take Devin Bush out of Michigan. The Steelers, missing out on Devin Bush, have to settle for a corner. That's Byron Murphy from Washington. Now we move on to Seattle. Now Seattle's pulled off some big stunners in the draft. They've been stunning people since 2012. Why is that going to change? They take Jeffrey Simmons, defensive tackle from Mississippi State. Now, he has fallen off some teams' draft boards, but this is a talent in this draft, and this is a future pick. He might not play this year, but if it works out in the long term, it's a good pick for Seattle. Baltimore. Now, they could go Garrett Bradbury. He's the best interior lineman available right now. However, Eric DeCosta knows their needs, and it's either wide receiver or pass rusher for me. Best player out of both is DK Metcalf. Yes, he may have a little bit of Rashard Perryman. However, if it works out, it works out. And Baltimore gets a number 1 receiver for the next 10 years. Texans, meanwhile, help out their number 1 receiver in DeAndre Hopkins by giving him a tight end and Noah Fant. Best receiving tight end in the draft, and it's a stunner that he's still available at this point. The Raiders, meanwhile, get a pass rusher in Colin Farrell from Clemson. Gets some help on that pass rush. They only had 13 sacks last year. 13 sacks, that should not even be possible. Philadelphia, meanwhile, gets help in that backfield. Even though they did sign a running back, they get help in the backfield with Josh Jacobs from Alabama. He may not carry the ball a whole lot, but he is a talent in this draft. The Colts, meanwhile, get help on their defensive line by taking Christian Wilkins from Clemson. Now in the regular draft, he's probably a top 20 pick, so I don't know how he fell to the Colts. Oakland, meanwhile, finishes up their first round by taking DeAndre Baker from Georgia, best technician at the cornerback position in this draft. Chargers, they take a corner as well, take Rock Yen-Sin from Temple. The Chiefs, meanwhile, yes, they need help on the defensive side of the ball, but they also need help at the interior line, and Garrett Bradbury's right there from NC State, so they go ahead and get him. Packers use their second first-round pick on Jonathan Abram, safety out of Mississippi State. Probably the only safety that's guaranteed a first-round pick in this draft. The Rams, meanwhile, cannot believe that Dexter Lawrence is falling this far in the draft, and they take him. And finally, the Patriots find a replacement for Trey Flowers by taking Brian Burns, edge rusher from Florida State. Alright, so that was the mock draft with Kyler Murray being taken first overall. Tune into part 2 to see what happens when Nick Bosa gets taken first overall.